Final ending of The Girl from the Other Side. The turning point came when my spouse revealed that her kid was having sex with a woman who was involved at grandma's house. Actually, her mom's side is represented by her uncle and her dad's side by her aunt. And everyone was instructed to keep it quiet. What is the age of these people? Jesus, it's time to mature. She had taken my kid or boys up there for the weekend dozens of times during our marriage, and that was all I could think about. The pattern was something like fight Thursday, see you later, Friday. It was as if a light had suddenly gone on in my mind. How on earth did I get myself into this situation? I wanted to give an explanation for the events of the past few days. While attempting to secure her cell phone, my wife locked herself out of it. To find out how to unlock her phone, she had to give her cellular carrier a call. It seems that she desired the SIM card to be unlocked as well as the phone. My wife was on her phone when I woke up the previous morning, before she had even gotten out of bed. She was awkwardly twisted around her phone and had bizarre body language. She clarified that it wasn't a huge concern in and of itself and that she was using her Hotmail account to check her emails. After he asks whether I'm going to get up with them, she wakes up our boys and tells my youngest that I've decided to stay up all night again. My wife doesn't even know that I do this. They are hence accustomed to it. I enjoy doing silly things like combing their hair and showing them how I clean up after myself, as well as teaching my boys self-grooming techniques. Thank God, my sons are on my channel and I'm tuned into them as well. In any case, I became quite agitated because I thought the children didn't need to know that I had decided not to say goodbye to them in the morning. In actuality, I had to work until midnight, take a break to acquire groceries for the house, and then commute for at least an hour, waking up about 7. When my kid arrives home for lunch at 11:30 is difficult. 30 a.m., and my eldest son shows up at 12 p.m. I have trouble sleeping, and at the end of the week, I'm unable to cope. It's equivalent to 5 hours of interrupted sleep, which is awful. In my opinion, she ought to have mentioned that her father, like all of us, needed his sleep because he had to work late. I suppose I have high standards for myself. According to my wife's perspective, she ought to consult me before speaking to our boys. It felt more like a personal jab at me rather than my boy. I send my wife a text asking her to look up blame shifting and the causes of this kind of behavior. My wife's counselor told her that I was abusive, so I thought we should talk about her observations. According to his counsel, my wife is scheming to get what she wants by luring me in and expecting an expected reaction. All I hear now is that I should stop focusing on this and that my inability to let go of the past and my tendency to overthink small things are my problems. No matter how minor or unimportant the problem, she will go to war. Then it dawned on me that her mother had raised her in the same manner. I'll show you affection if you do something I like, but if you do the opposite, get ready to burn. In an attempt to win my wife's affection, my life has taken on an odd form. I believe that love ought to be unconditional and that my wife is only showing support for actions that she finds appealing. Everything about this is incorrect. My spouse refuses to have lunch with me because she will ramble on about how the kids are getting by without. It's funny because when I call her, she'll be at the same restaurant by alone that we were at, and she won't even seem guilty. It might work out if I can manage to prepare my son's lunch and fulfill her need for the kids to witness our interactions. She warned me we can't do this to our children while we were on the skywalk as we were on our way to lunch. I assured her that the children were at school, eating lunch, and would be all right. We had scheduled a meeting beforehand, so I was thrown off. It was very perplexing. I'm starting to piece together that she refuses to try to meet my needs and believes that it is my job to look after the kids. Or, used, that's how I feel, anyway. To appease my foolish and conceited desire for regret that my wife's acts are meaningless, I composed a series of questions for her. However, they are. Despite the fact that it is important to me, I feel numb right now and don't even want to ask her. I don't really want to talk about it anymore because she believes that life will be better without me. She is content that I am to blame for everything, and I could not be bothered. It has dawned on me that a dishonest, deceptive, and ungrateful individual would never make me happy. Wife is a disrespectful liar. She is no longer receiving money, and I am being ignored. She may be a nice woman, but I don't think she's a good fit for me. I've come to the realization that my life is a gigantic carpet sweep and that my wife has been cheating on me ever since our first date. My tolerance for handling shit unnecessarily has been the only thing that has changed. I'm coming to understand that my sons and I will always be there for one another, and that my relationship with them is not influenced by my wife. Honestly, there's not much she can do to me that she hasn't already done. I am prepared to take a chance since it seems as though the worst-case scenario has already occurred. The guys that I work with are also the best. Despite how strange it may sound, they have all been incredibly helpful to me, listening to me and offering advice more than my wife has ever done. I have a ton of recordings in my VAR memory that I haven't listened to yet, though I doubt it matters much now since she dishonored me in such a way that it ended our marriage years ago. From my perspective, it was entirely her decision to make. I'll speak with her tomorrow and give her the order to depart. According to what I gather, she will be moving out after Christmas, so no resistance is expected. She has already given her pals the child's birth certificates and any other relevant paperwork. I will no longer be angry. I have to start over from scratch as a father and reconstruct my life. I also have to find work as a lawyer. It should just take a week or a week and a half at most. This past weekend, we had a phone consultation with a marriage counselor via my employer's health coverage. During our periods of separation, a counselor questioned me if I still believed that I was committed. Naturally, I replied in the affirmative, but my wife was totally taken aback when she received the same query from her. With a stammer, she explained that everything was whirling and that the children were her only concern, along with some other nonsense about how she would never be able to accomplish anything or would do anything around our children. The question was of the yes or no variety. She says she wants another child and begs me to pay $4,000 for a tuberculosis reversal on Sunday. NFW was all I could think of. In a million years, never. Oh, and my 17-year-old niece who moved out with my wife last time is now out on dates with other young ladies. I didn't anticipate that. Then my wife tells me that my youngest son is lying in school and is having problems because of his own actions. Talk about dropping a brick on me. I bought him and his older brother a slush at the corner store in our neighborhood. I noticed him strolling ahead of me as he dumped some trash on the store floor after reaching into his pocket. He made a blatant attempt to resist my request to pick up the trash that he had just thrown on the floor. I gave him 3 chances to tell the truth, but he refused. Then, based on his account, he only flung one of the 3 pieces into the floor. I told him that a man should always tell the truth and that he is superior to that kind of behavior after he had picked up the rubbish and put it in the trash. I think the boy is also perplexed by my hasty acceptance of lies as the truth. All in all, my boys have to learn that they should behave as they would like to be treated when they grow up. She was very interested in her niece's life and was merely going through the motions with our boys while her niece lived with her, similar to sisters or something. I'm not really sure, but watching them interact made me think of 2 peas in a pod. Tonight, I learned that my soon-to-be ex had created a Facebook page under her previous name. She shared a number of posters about being judged by someone who doesn't have their own life together and about separating from the one holding you back. Lead me not into temptation, replied another. Who was I kidding? I know a shortcut, follow me. I noticed that she has also been searching for local males. Anyone can locate anyone on her friend list by searching for the town community center, which she has as a friend. She behaves as though she is the victim and that this is all her fault. Amazing. My oldest kid seems to be enjoying the extra attention his mother is giving him based on the texts he sent. Exactly like the previous separations, staying home from school and purchasing gaming cards. To ensure the lads are content while she is gone doing her thing, she will make up for it by getting them anything they desire. Yesterday, I had a conversation with my mother as well, and she promised to help with the lawyer money and watch the boys when I work shifts. Her opinion is to file for custody, and I wholeheartedly concur. I'm not just going to sit back and let her do whatever she wants after all is said and done. I will want a list of everyone my boys will be in contact with, along with any past interactions, if she is granted custody. For her 3rd separation, my wife moved out and got an apartment in a desirable part of town. Even though there was a brief trial run earlier, it's happening once more. She is getting better at it now, but I still got the same tale as before. She's dangling the we can be happy bait and now wants me to help her and my boys move out of the house. Something like that. I just have to relax and enjoy the journey. This woman is not a friend of mine. As crazy as it sounds to type, my coworkers treat me better than my own wife. While I'm powerless to stop her from going, I have the power to prevent her from returning, and the choice has been made. No more tinkering with her vehicle. Put an end to the calls. No more taking yes answers in place of no questions. I will no longer place anyone on this piece of work, except children, ahead of me. Put an end to your cheap pizza. I will no longer turn away those who wish to be in my presence. I will no longer keep my word and my actions apart. Never again will I take her back. I told her last night that it was not acceptable for her to stay until after Christmas. Last night, I worked late and when I got home, she and the child had left. She packed essentials last night and returned today with her mother and a U-Haul to retrieve the rest of her stuff. Only a 10-foot unit was needed for this separation. As she drove off, she had a less than friendly expression on her face. Well, at least she's out of my life now, so I can start rebuilding it. He suggested renting a home in the city and giving the kids weekly breaks. My ex can find another man and I can find a new woman in this method. It may seem odd, yet he made sense. My spouse believes that I will take the boys out on the weekends so she can enjoy herself and I can work and see my family. Not enough time to make a new girlfriend. Now, things are beginning to take shape. Early signs suggest that this process won't be too difficult. My youngest son called and invited me to spend the night at their new apartment, and that's when I got drawn back in. I then retorted that he should first speak with his mother because there is a lot going on. My wife then calls to say she wants me to go too. That should indicate to me that she wants me to visit her new home, which is a good thing. That she still depends on me for support, that she still views herself as my wife, and that she has no interest in dating other men. I suggested to her over the phone yesterday that we see the latest Star Wars film. Her answer was, to put it mildly, unclear. She informed me that we would not be out on dates because that would complicate the situation. All of her suffering was evident, and I foolishly fell for the bait and became upset. Push, pull, pull, push. That's what I observe. Upon closer inspection, I don't feel all that horrible about her being gone from my life. My attorney informed me that I could ask the court to order her to return the children home, but he stated that would be unjustified and would remove the gloves. He suggested letting the ex swim in it for a bit, and she'll be pleased to share living quarters, since 2 boys that age are a lot of work. In addition, they'll eat her alive, which will reduce opposition to custody. I promised the kids that I won't sell the house till spring and that they don't want it to be returned. However, from a father's perspective, my ex can spend more time with them because he works a day shift and doesn't have to commute. Due to my shift worker's schedule, the boys would receive less attention and interaction with their parents. My only wish is that they should endure the least amount of pain during this entire process. For something that is beyond their control, why should they suffer punishment? I've paid nothing up front for either of the attorneys I've worked with. The one attorney I called in July of last year felt more like a good fit for me. This last attorney was kind of a vacuous figure, with no clear legal stance other than I'm going to lose my shirt. I spoke with a coworker who told me that my basic pay would just need to be accounted and that overtime cannot be counted as income. I feel as though no one can give me sound counsel, and I'm currently in a state of sadness. I'm kind of numb right now, no excuses. It's difficult to describe, but I feel like my thoughts are shifting from what or who she is with to more of our relationship failing. I will definitely be able to manage being my own captain once more. In order to meet nice women, my mother suggested that I volunteer or go to some local churches, and definitely no lush bar woman. I am still married to you and I will not be with other men, she texted me on Monday. However, for the time being, I'd like to be friends with benefits with you. I don't want to cope with a relationship and all of the demands right now, even if it may seem horrible to you. Yesterday, I talked to the WW about providing money to her drug-addicted sister. I brought my child to wrestling after his birthday party, which I wasn't supposed to attend, and I watched her take some of his gift money to give her sister so she could get her fix. Then she had a second niece staying with her. This one comes from her brother, an 18-year-old meth addict. She took off the gloves and remarked, "What kind of man does that?" adding that she intended to use her family's position as pressure to obtain the children. She went on to say that me and her dysfunctional family were in the same category, that I'm a mess and that I can't even look after myself, let alone the boys. She sees me as this monster that is domineering and has abuse as a goal. In reality, I am a family advocate, and I judge anything by whether or not it is beneficial to my family. Our kids won't be influenced by a cycle of trash that requires facilitators. I can put it this way. My WW puts on this armor to solve all of the world's issues and does all they ask of her family as a sign of her love for them. They are clearly just a group of puppies cuddled up around their mother, sucking with their eyes closed, to an onlooker from the outside. Her mother also treats her mother in this way. A massive pile of nursing puppies from different generations are gathered together, allowing life to pass them by. She had intended to go again before she actually did and well before I did, according to my VAR, which I listened to. I answered as usual to her bait, then used it as an excuse to head out. An update, I can't say that my children's mother is solely to blame for my misery, but I am still unhappy. Setting up appropriate boundaries with the individuals in my life seems to be my issue. She is unable to stop finding methods to minimize my contribution and how just being here makes her life easier. It's difficult to describe, but she seems to be going through the motions in life. As a family, we no longer spend time together, and I find it difficult to even nap or watch my favorite TV show. Instead, I sit by myself, we watch what she wants to watch, or I have low energy. It is an awful place to be. Like I have to entertain everyone and take care of them before I think about myself. I've done some reading on the subject, and my wife has nothing but disdain for me. That's how I live. She tells me that I'm married to my career and that I chose to prioritize my work over being a decent provider. Although this isn't truly the case, I can't simply leave the plant because my tickets are necessary for it to continue running. It makes no difference. In the end, I wind up not doing the right thing, acting as though I don't exist and rejecting my attempts at making personal contact. They even go so far as to move away from me if I try to make eye contact or physical contact. Essentially, this means that I need a lady who can take into account both of our requirements since I can no longer stand to be treated like a second-class citizen. A lady who is at ease with me for who I am rather than what I can do for them, and who can offer and receive love. Perhaps she won't constantly stress me out with demands that just make me feel worse and make her unhappy. She believes she ought to be allowed to act aloof. It was always simply that she had a rough morning or the kids were causing her stress, and that was plainly fine. When I'm under stress and I respond similarly, she perceives me as abusive, and I'm thrown to the wolves. She's playing the whole reveal game already. She's leaving me, I've changed as a man, and the person I've become isn't the one she married. Jesus, tell me about that ancient game of reverse. Consistent pattern each time. It is really annoying that from now on, I will respond to whatever I bring up that I'm having problems with. and sending me all these emails from her work email, giving the impression that my lack of character was the only reason she ended things. It's not that important now, but she's done this exact same thing previously. We can enjoy one another's company during her lovely moments, but she always returns to her man-hating self. This is the aspect that stumps me the most, as it's more a question of decision than capacity. I've also noticed something else odd lately. She keeps forgetting stuff like where we entered the store and what's on the stove. I was the one who exhibited some of those mild inclinations, but never with her, recalling discrepancies that never occurred. They also appear to be occurring more frequently these days, to the extent that she has acknowledged them. She started asking me strange questions, such as if I believed she was losing her mind. She threatened to sell my personal belongings today if I didn't make the loan payment. She must be tearing herself apart on the inside to think that it's so simple to steal money from someone she respects so little. I stopped going to IC because, more than likely, he was giving me things I didn't want to hear. In the same way that everyone has been counseling me all along, I only maintain myself in these undesirable circumstances because I believe I deserve it. I developed shame somewhere along the line, and not just little shame either. When I questioned about my performance at work, my department head informed me that I was being far too hard on myself. I would be better off somewhere in the middle, he continued, because beating oneself up can be just as awful as having no concern at all. Other than that, nothing to complain about. It appears that I will begin with this. She orally told me I could have the house as long as I didn't try to take the boys away from her when I spoke with her about the divorce. In my opinion, the courts ought to make the decision based on what's best for the children, where they reside. In any case, I scheduled a meeting with my IC and a lawyer. Although our divorce does not imply that our relationship is ended, I have a hunch that she will reveal her actual self once I rattle her cage. She believes that I will just sit and do nothing, but I want to end that chapter of my life and separate everything. I'm hoping that everyone can support me during this next section. I scheduled an intake meeting for my boys to see a counselor through my work benefit plan. However, consent paperwork must be signed by their mother first. She informed me she refused when I tried this method previously because she believed I would use it against her. Without my signature, how can she enroll children in school and have counselors visit them? In any case, the counselor is not even on the same side of town as me. She is a whole different person. My worry is that my sons have a confidante with whom they may discuss some of their experiences in a neutral setting. I have a to-do list for after work. First, ask both schools for attendance records and inquire about any in-house counseling resources that may be available. Secondly, let the school know that we have joint custody, and that if something happens involving my kids, I want to know about it. 3. Get a copy of their attendance records by contacting the school they attended during the summer. 4. Find out which agency looked into my wife's use of medication and other nonsense. 5. Seek for a job that does not require working shifts. 6. Find a copy of the Binding Shame. 7. I need to send samples to cover my back and update my address for the DNA kit I ordered in December of last year. When all is said and done, the final one is a bit superficial. Before I pound the sand, I want to be 11% certain. I haven't had any NC with her in the last 3 days. I can see her actions now. What the devil is wrong with me? Sitting here, I'm expecting my wife to be someone she's obviously not. Sadly, there is nothing I can do to make this different. However, I continue to anticipate more from my wife than she was ever able to provide. Finally, I anticipate that she will feel the same regret that I would if I were in her shoes. To tell the truth, the character simply does not exist. After that, I considered what a difficult upbringing she had. That dynamic was never investigated. Rather, she chose to project the transgression onto me, which appeared to help her overcome her youth. She still has a great deal of respect for her elder brothers despite having a troubled past with at least 2 of them. She boasts about how good they dance and how all the girls want them. I'm truly confused by incest, thus I have no shame at all. Now that I'm not with her, I know that she will have to deal with the truth. Perhaps she should just act like a fool for the rest of her life. Who cares? She will be chin-deep in foolishness at 2 in the morning, and no decent man will be waiting for her in a bar. I don't think she will have any trouble getting guys to cheat on her, but she will have to downgrade and look for a new relationship since, as he starts to realize the truth and see her family, she is no longer financially supported. I will not pay my wife to leave and take our children away from me in any way. She was attempting to dissuade me from opposing her in our custody battle. I'm confident that once the attorneys are engaged, the 50/50 custody issue will also be dropped. Not a single penny going forward. Neither texts nor calls were returned. I'm aware that she will eventually fall apart and have to pick herself up since I won't be around to witness it all. It's difficult to say, but I can tell when I see her that she's not even the same person I once loved. It seems like she changed over the years, and as long as we were together, I either chose to ignore it or was unaware of it. However, both her eyes and her demeanor have changed. As an addition, after speaking with another attorney, it was suggested that we even just point out the parameters to begin the process, and that the wife and I should sit down and do some basic math to determine the debts and assets and divide them evenly. After doing that, we submit the agreement for unbiased legal assessment and give our approval. I reason that it would mean less trauma for the kids and for me as well. Her consumer debt must be paid off and deducted from her part of the assets, according to the lawyer. She then texted me, stating that, until it's too late and you went and ruined everything, we could just put off getting a divorce, maintain our civility, and sell the house before filing. Which you probably did, I suppose. This says to send me a $30,000 check so I may dump you like a hot potato, according to what I read. You can then use the remaining equity to satisfy my debt when we reach a formal settlement. It's not in my best interest to sell right now, according to my lawyer. I'm not kidding. We won't make any of our assets liquid until an agreement is in place. She will stop at nothing to ensure that people cannot see the true her. Transgressions. It's a misery cake recipe. She claims that I am frightening and that she is not even willing to sit down. Her statement that she wants the equity, indirectly, of course, but doesn't want to deal with the other side of the sword makes me laugh. Intimidation comes from anything outside of this arena. She then stated the debt she is prepared to pay back. My prior legal counsel advised me that she could not sign the separation agreement, and that $1,000 would be lost. She now claims that she will work with her attorney to draft the agreement and email it to me. I have a good notion, since I don't know what her true objectives are, we will have a starting point. She insists that she won't argue and that I can have anything I want. Her final text was, I don't want to see you, you're just too intimidating. I also won't argue with you about anything. As previously stated, I don't give a damn about any of that. I will discuss the debt with my attorney. I'll email you my preliminary agreement after I speak with her, and you can make a decision after that. Interesting development. Today, the STBX texted me and asked to hang out. Says she wants to be able to spend time with me and not get into a relationship again, and she misses me. She replied there is no guilt when I inquired if she was reaching out to me. Indeed, her desire for a softer target during the separation process makes sense. In your opinion, what is happening here? I'm the cause of all her suffering and she despises me to her core, but let's hang out nonetheless. She claims to be joyful, broken, dead as usual, and ringing occasionally. She might just have a freedom fantasy in which she is free to make mistakes and never face repercussions. I have trouble falling asleep. I can still see the viewpoint she is working from, but this is really bothering me. How can we just move from being married seriously to being friends? Then inquiring as to whether I had already made plans to take someone else to a forthcoming performance, if it were okay with me, asking if she may accompany me. She said she shouldn't have gotten in touch with me after blowing everything off. Update, my spouse has re-injured me. Suddenly, she tells me that she is tired of my behavior. Despite my attempts to avoid interaction, she is unyielding. Anyhow, the day after I left, she went out to the bar and told me she needed space again on Facebook. My youngest child was getting hot and both of his parents were not returning his calls, so I had to go take him up. He called me at 1:45 a.m., so I drove into town to pick him up and bring him home. She could hardly have ignored her own child for the bar or anything else, for heaven's sake. She told me yesterday that she has male acquaintances, but she was afraid to tell me because of my reaction and my tendency to be controlling. Is it possible that she is holding me responsible for her moral lapses and betrayal? She claimed that she needed to be with someone who will embrace her past as a complex part of who she is and who won't condemn her. That she is tickled trusting me is unbelievable. What a deceptive cost if upheld. She deleted her Facebook account, but she kept her friends' list secret so neither my boys nor I could view it. Then informed me that she had deleted her Facebook account since it wasn't healthy for relationships. I wondered why she would do that besides attempting to hide her friend list from me. I called her on it one day last week when she got home and told her that I was transparent about my buddy list and that she needed to follow suit. I then stood by her and requested that she reactivate her account so that I could have a look at her. She became quite irrational and told me that this was the reason she couldn't be with me. She then grabbed her phone and, of course, went outside by herself for a good 15 minutes. Then, after making a big deal out of it, she beckoned me into the bedroom and said, in a lovely voice, that I might come take a peek. She must have thought I was foolish, but I realized then that she was using me to keep some parts of her life hidden from me. She has now had male pals for a while, which she has concealed from me at all times. She accused me once more of being unable to be honest. Remarkable thing happened when she called my son at 2:40 a.m. She told him he knew she was going out and he would like her to return home, so he wouldn't answer her phone. I was taken aback. She treats me the same way, but in the end, she makes my boy feel bad about forcing her to return home. What a piece of assholery parents and spouses can be. Then, at 6 in the morning, she calls and makes fun of me for picking up my youngest child and asks if I've been drinking as well. She lost interest after she saw I had no stitches. I was clean, in fact, I was hung up on. I inquired to see if a woman's viewpoint would be helpful in this situation. Talking to these people gave her something she didn't get from me. She clarified that she could be honest with them and that they wouldn't judge her. How could she treat her husband so disrespectfully while being so receptive to almost strangers? Was it my responsibility to encourage her to form bonds with males in her life that I had no knowledge about? What a sting in the tail. Now that I know for sure that I am a codependent, I am nearly positive that she has BPD. I felt compelled to express my regret to everyone who took the time to post counsel, knowing full well what was happening and my total inability to pay attention. I waited too long to find a woman who is eager to share my life with me because I had the misconception that my wife would be unique from all the others. After 3 months, I finally had enough and informed her yesterday that she didn't matter to me or share my opinions on anything. She basically said, "So what? Who gives a damn?" In answer, nothing is changing about it. The element that probably perplexed me the most was why someone would want to be with someone who didn't seem to care all that much about their feelings. It wouldn't really be a friendship, if that were the case. She attempted to speak as I was finishing my sentence, and I urged her not to say me too before she had uttered a word. I agree that it is really degrading and that it happens repeatedly. I've started taking a prescribed medicine and am finally seeing my doctor about my sadness. I'm going to start putting my life back together after my appointment with my IC on October 8th. She loved making a cheap shot remark about my rough patch a few weeks ago, and she never apologized, even after I took steps to get my head straight. I was going home one morning after working the night shift, and I was so delighted to see her. She was harsh and frigid when she woke up, so I walked into the living room to watch TV and get away from her. She requested me to return to the kitchen, where she was doing cosmetics, since she felt horrible. It started up again as soon as I sat down, and as I went to give her a final kiss, it became agitated. What I got was a forehead kiss that resembled the kind an odd old man could receive from a stranger, complete with eye rolling. After a mere 20 minutes, she starts texting me pictures of hearts and kisses. I tried to get that one down too, but she just said that she wasn't a morning person and was in a hurry. It's never her acts, it's always my sensitivity. She also mentioned that individuals who are in love can endure extramarital affairs. Since we haven't had any in our relationship and we're still experiencing issues, it must imply we weren't meant to be together. Well, that makes sense if you grew up on Skid Row. As of right now, the boys are back in town for school, which puts me in a stronger position to keep them here. The wench is aware that her actions are only meant to annoy me and that she will never learn. In my opinion, a spouse who harbors nothing but disdain for their mate is worthless. Tits on a pig. I'm going to see my attorney ASAP so she can't bring the kids to the city once more and act casually cool. Upon reflection, I realized that throughout our 19 years together, I was the one to initiate any form of intimacy. She would either take a shower or put on a nice pair of underwear before going to bed, similar to a sign asking me to help her. For years after, it made connecting tedious for me. My update was necessary because she was just acting in a way that irritated me until I eventually realized what she was doing, luring me into a reaction that lets her act in a way that doesn't involve any guilt. I now understand at last that she will not suddenly see the light. I just spoke with a lawyer over the phone, and it seems that while I can't stop her from removing the boys' school records, I can let the city's education divisions know that I have joint custody rights and that I won't let her register them without my consent. Then, until a deal is done, she can only re-register kids at the school in our town. In order to avoid going through the extra step of going through a divorce, my strategy is to file for divorce after we have worked out an agreement. I want to meet down with her and work things out because I get more free counsel before the referral, and it is coming from my money. As soon as we begin the T-balancing for each of us, I'm sure I'll have a lot of questions. I've just spent the morning attempting to assert my parental custody rights by circling the boys' previous schools and districts. I am at a loss for words. This is truly bothersome. Update: she has left the house entirely once more and has brought dinner for everyone but me. I suppose it's her way of telling me that I'm not worthy of being considered a family member. Thankfully, I am not part of her plans for the long weekend, which will allow me to spend some much-needed alone time. I've been taking my prescription for a week now, and I've seen some changes. The side effects are minimal now that there is no longer any dry mouth and only a slight amount of insomnia. Her games to just annoy me and her pretend laughter with the kids are no longer going under my skin. I can feel her leaving my thoughts now. What is the value of that? Since my bulldog puppy always seems to like me and doesn't want for anything from me other than to bring his friend, he is really helping out. Actually, it's a really good deal for both of us. Women were following me around the grocery store with my cart full of organic vegetable and a large bag of puppy chow because my chest was protruding a little more every day. I entered our room tonight to see if my STBX would be open to discussing the breakup. I got an opportunity to look over our bank statements, but I was unaware of her actual consumer debt. It also didn't go well. In her opinion, we could just walk away from the house and sell it. My attorney clarified that it was not a good idea to sell the house without a contract. She lost her cool and became irrational when she realized that all of this debt needed to be paid off legally. Told me she couldn't be with me because of that. I clarified that a lawyer is involved to ensure a fair outcome. She had an intense hateful expression in her eye, and I'm not sure what I did to deserve this kind of reaction from her. She was utterly devoted to me last week. This week, I'm the devil. In any case, I believe I know what's going on because she has been messaging on her phone all night. Either she has a guy in her life or she is receiving coaching. I simply contacted her to let her know that I wouldn't want her to be upset with me and that I would be the larger guy and sell the house the way she wants. I'm going to have one last phone consultation tomorrow and hire an attorney on Tuesday to prevent her from stealing my children going forward. I'm going to apply this energy to the road ahead. Looking back, I can see that it was a do this for me and I'll treat you fondly type of deal. However, I'm angry that she thinks I'm that stupid. I'm a good husband and dad when I do what she wants, and worthless otherwise. We can sell the house and you can take your half. I don't want to fight. Please stop hating me. Get an appraisal this week and we can put it on the market right away. She's now telling me that even when my kids are nearby, I don't like to be around them. I have to tell them that this is untrue. The text regarding the house sale has also been removed. Up until yesterday, I was feeling great, but I'm having trouble staying positive while she packs. When she opened Facebook again, even our children were barred from her friend list. I was amazed when I searched up the person she was talking to and dated when she was 16. He has pictures of himself getting wasted with his grandmother and a large bottle of whiskey on a table with the remark, "Let the fun begin." Though he appears to have spent his adult life being dragged behind a vehicle, he is only around 7 years younger. Upon perusing his profile, I find myself somewhat pitying the mother of my child. I can't help but think that she will find someone to suit her needs in a man, even though I know that she won't be in a good place to move on. Actually, I think it will be good to be around someone who is not a smoker and who I enjoy. The results of the DNA test were conclusively positive for paternity on both samples that night. My boys are those. My ex texted me to let me know that she had moved out and had all of her belongings. It looks like something I could utilize in the future, so I emailed myself a screenshot of it. Her number has been blocked and locks have been changed. The awful thing about the entire situation is that each time it occurs, my guys cease getting in touch with me. Although I don't hold them responsible for anything, my pain doesn't seem to care. I'm waiting on a settlement to happen before filing for divorce 3 years later. Strangely enough, I made a good living in the little town where we bought our home and currently have a respectable local job. Actually, the commute takes 2 minutes. The odd thing is that my main reason for relocating out of this area was the ex, even though I wanted to stay in the city. It does, however, give me a higher quality of life in an ex-buffer zone spanning roughly 100 miles. She was gesturing for us to get back together by working on our relationship. The issue is that while it would be wonderful to have the boys at home, I would be unable to maintain my masculine identity. It's interesting that she's currently in financial ruin and a complete mess. To be honest, I feel sorry for the man who becomes her next victim, but that's not my concern anymore. It doesn't sound very nice to spend the rest of my life lying. All I can do is be there for my sons when they need me. My older son will turn 18 in September, and my younger son is only 15. I have no idea where my journey will lead, but I must keep moving forward until I'm well and content. I'm really motivated to achieve where I want to be because of this entire situation, which allowed me to reflect on myself. Joy, here I come. I hope that 44 is not too late because it is now time for me to move on with my life. My comment, Opus is finally freed from this lunacy. He is done with her, so he